Wake up, buyer payer people. It's a beautiful day. Go grab yourself another cup of joe and say hello to Jim and Michelle Rhoads on the Buy Here Pay Here Morning Show. Take it away, you two.
Hey, happy Friday.
Yeah.
Time to do another morning show, huh?
It is time
Already?
to do another morning show.
Yeah.
Absolutely is. And just like I'm ready to rock and roll for
It's
2025.
It's fun how everybody's kind of shifting, into go
You know what
mode
I'm really
for the new
grateful
year.
for
Tell me.
is that I don't use a checkbook anymore, because the biggest challenge I had was January, February, and remembering to put 20, like the new year.
Yeah.
It was always dated from. So I'm really glad. It's
Shifting
like made
over.
my life easier.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Congratulations.
Thanks.
It is.
I mean, small things
that's right.
add up to,
Small victories,
happy times.
Yeah, no, it's definitely nice to be shifting into the new year, and you're just seeing people with their attitudes and kind of kind of using it to recalibrate their direction in certain places.
It is, a lot of questions and things. It's been fun to watch some of the social medias. People were like, this is where we ended up for the year, and this is the kind of growth, and this is, and so there's a lot of celebration around that with, that I'm seeing people talk about. And I've seen some that say, hey, how is your December? There was one post that was like, how is your December compared to last year? And I think Jack Carter was like, it's exactly the same as it was last year.
Yep.
So,
So on that subject about, shifting into new year, we have, we set for the end of January, our V8 mastermind. We're doing our first mastermind thing. And so it's going to be around dealer's business plan for 2025. And we're going to have other members come in and kind of help critique and assess the plan. And it'll help, I'm sure it'll help them with their own plans, so it'll be an interesting format. We're looking forward to getting started on that. So
absolutely. So that's, if you are interested in doing something like the V8 masterminds, you have to be in a home group.
Yep.
So,
have to be in a V8 group.
So just reach out and we can get you hooked up on that.
Absolutely.
All right.
Shall we dive in?
I think so. Let's
bring in Mr. Brent Carmichael. So people know Brent. He requires little introduction.
Very little introduction.
He's I think Brent, and when I wrote the description for today's appearance, I said I want to go back a little bit. We know you're just stepping down from a long tenure. Was it a full 19 years that you were with them?
Just over 18.
Yeah. Gotcha. Okay.
So my 17th year back in October.
Yep. Yeah. And but you were in the buy here, pay here business. Obviously, you're stepping into the director of education seat at NIADA starting next week. And we, first of all, congratulate you again for that move. That makes a lot of sense for you and for NIADA. And so we're excited to see what's going to come from all that. And I know that you, because our audience here is buy here, pay here, we know that you have moderated many buy here, pay here groups over the years, and you were in the buy here, pay here business before you became an NCM moderator. So I would like for you to take our listeners back to kind of what that career was. What else did you do besides the car business?
Actually, I've only had, I guess, technically now. Well, first of all, Happy New Year to you guys. Hope you had great holidays, and thank you for the opportunity again. Great to see you guys again. It's been a while. NIADA will be only my fourth job as an adult.
Wow.
Since I left college. And I started out with a deep subprime finance company called Security Finance years ago as a branch manager, and was promoted, ended up being a regional manager for them. And due to a job my wife got, I left that position and got into buy here, pay here as a finance manager in 1996. So I left college in 89. Was in deep subprime finance, and then got into buy here, pay here as a finance manager in 96. Promoted to a vice president of an operation in 99 and operated it until 2007. That company got bought out by a publicly traded company. And Jim, I know you're familiar with large companies. I wasn't cut out for public life. I mean, it's just completely different. We were, I think, 249, 250 employees is what we had grown to. And I just wasn't cut out for that life. Was a member of an NCM 20 group, as well as a LEADM 20 group as well. And when I resigned, I sent a resume to NCM, and they were nice enough to give me a job. So again, the three jobs that I've had, now going on my fourth, have all been in deep subprime finance and sales in some form or fashion. So It's not a very illustrious resume. It's pretty much the same job for the better part of what will be, this is my 36th year, I guess, going into the deep subprime industry. So
yeah, that just makes you like a subject matter expert on just about everything in buy here, pay here.
Expert meaning I have made every mistake humanly possible. Yes, I've done everything wrong way multiple times. That's what makes you an expert, not success.
It is. I love that. I love that. Love that. Yes.
Well, we do learn from our mistakes for sure. And I think, or if we're paying attention, we do, right? So otherwise we run the risk of getting stung again. But I think, I was thinking about the matter of your career in moderating 20 groups, because even if you had never set foot in a buy here, pay here dealership before you became a moderator, the things that you would learn from moderating the countless number of meetings that you have done across 18 years and what you learn from just being in that room as the dealers, obviously communicate with one another. You've seen a ton of stuff in your capacity. And this is what I always say about Brent. You're gonna have a hard time finding anybody who's got as deep and wide of experience as what Brent's got, just because of those meetings alone. And obviously you've been out and done consulting. And I was also thinking recently, Brent, that one of the most educational experiences for me in coaching and consulting was when I'd go out and do a visit, and you would have multiple locations, and maybe you would visit each of the locations in the course of that visit, and you would see the differences in the way that they're managed, like what you would learn about actual day-to-day operations and management and how that varies. It's just so educational for me. I'm there to educate, but I'm learning as much as I'm teaching often in those experiences, and I'm sure you've seen the same.
Oh, by far. And like I said, when I went to work for NCM, again, we were a very successful company. So we kind of thought we had it figured out. And then being on this end of it for so many years, I was like, boy, if I'd have known then what I know now, right? Kind of human experience in general, we could have been way better than what we were even at that point. But again, there's never a dull moment. I mean, all the meetings, even after 17 years, are all still different. There's always something even I, as a moderator, pick up that a dealer has done or hasn't done, or one of those things that I go, man, that was a good idea. Where was that when I needed that 17 years ago, 18 years ago? So, never a dull moment. Always something new, something sometimes not completely legal, I guess, for some of them, but a lot of fun.
Yeah, I follow that. And one thing too, I want to throw in about Brent that I know that he that says something about his background in management, even when he was in college. In college, he played baseball and was a catcher. And anybody who knows baseball knows that catchers are game managers, certainly at the college level. And so there's just a management thing that goes along with that. And it's part of what has served Brent so well, in his career. And so it's one more reason that, just for those folks who know what it is to be a baseball catcher, I didn't do it, but I've seen a lot of good catchers, and I know the difference of what it takes to do that well. So
catchers are the only ones that do that, but nobody else wants it. That's how you end up a catcher.
Yeah.
Nobody volunteers to be one. Nobody wants to sit back there and get beat up. It's like, hey, it's kind of like being the last one picked in kickball. I was the last one picked, so therefore I was the catcher. I don't think
baseball catcher. Yeah. There you go.
It's just what was left over.
Yeah. No, there's you're being modest as usual, but that's a difficult, challenging position, and you're right. You being a backstop, you get beat up, but you do learn a lot. You manage a lot of the game that is baseball, and so that's pretty fascinating part of your background for me. But let's talk about NIADA. I've got a couple things I want to ask you about specific to a thread that was on social media recently, and so I want to kind of drill down to that, because I think it's going to give our listeners a real sense of kind of some of the fundamental stuff about buy here, pay here. But before we go into that, I just want to hear about, your thoughts as you step into the role within NIADA. What are you looking forward to? Anything you can share with us about what's on the kind of top initiatives?
Well, like I said, looking forward to everything, to be quite honest with you. And again, bittersweet leaving a company as phenomenal as NCM after the 17, almost 18 years of being there. So again, great relationships there, learned a lot, but really looking forward to this next chapter and being able to kind of put my focus on the industry that pretty much has given me everything that I have, or everything that I know at this point. So kind of gives me more of an opportunity to give back than I would have had at NCM. So looking forward to all of it. Obviously, it's a big transition right now. I mean, everybody knows there's been quite a bit of turnover at NIADA over the last year. So we're working through those issues there. And again, just making sure that, we take care of the association in general, but also the members, not only of the 20 groups, but the members of the association. So kind of drinking out of a fire hose, which is a good thing. Never a dull moment at this point. Kind of first day on the job, and oh, by the way, convention's coming up. We need this. We've got 10, 12, 20 group meetings coming up this month. Getting the education planned out again to start making sure that we get those boot camps out and provide services for the association. So the to-do list is very, very long at this point. But again, very exciting. Something really looking forward to the challenge. Got a great team at NIADA as well. Everybody that I've had the opportunity to meet so far. A lot of them I've known for quite a few years. Obviously, Jeff Martin being probably the key reason to lead to this transition was Jeff. The opportunity to work with him because all the great work he did at TIADA. So looking forward to teaming up with him and everybody else and kind of taking the association to the next level. So nervous, yes, but a positive nervous energy. There is a lot to do. I've got a lot of things I would like to get accomplished, but we'll see. We'll see. Yeah. Looking forward. It's going to be a bright future. We know that. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I would share with you before we went live that we have a conversation schedule. We got a virtual recorded session coming up in mid-January with Paul Folletti, the NCM CEO, and Jeff Martin. So we're going to actually have a chance to speak to them together and talk about, have them share what they will about how the transition came to be. And obviously it's a big move for NCM because as I understood it, they're now exiting the buy here, pay here space altogether. Of course, when you leave the building, true? I mean, isn't that what we understood?
Yeah, I mean, that's to help facilitate the move. And again, like I said, I can't give Paul enough praise and enough thanks for being open-minded enough to allow a transition like this. And Jeff Martin on the other side, again, for both of them to want to work together on something like this. And I think that the main thing was for both of them is they wanted what was best for the industry.
Right.
And I think we all understood that we needed to consolidate it in one place. And obviously NIADA is really the best place for that with the current infrastructure and being the association for independent auto dealers in the first place. So again, kudos to both of them for being open-minded enough to even think about doing something like this. Yeah. And again, I think they were both from the right place. It's what's best for the industry in general. So again, but like I said, it could have been a very short and sweet conversation. And like I said, I think NCM understands that their bread and butter is the franchise side, is the OEM side. I mean, that's where they started. They kind of wrote the book on 20 groups, started in 1947, been doing 20 groups now for, oh my gosh, what is that, 78 years? Yeah. They've been doing 20 groups, and it's been a majority of them have been franchised. So, that's kind of their main focus. And like I said, the independent space now gets probably what it's really needed over the last 4 or 5 years. Not me, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying a focus where it's kind of all under one roof to a certain extent where we can really help the independent dealer.
So does this make then NIADA is the only place that you can go for a 20 group then in the end?
For independent use, to the best of my knowledge, yes, it's going to be
it's like Leadham went Yeah, it was, and so it's kind of been
the DPG thing for a very short amount of time, but again, I think that's probably the best for the industry as opposed to 4 or 5 small players, and that way we can aggregate the data. You get obviously some better information when it's few as possible.
So. Right.
Oh yeah.
Very cool.
You know that we're all on board for like if we can pull data together and help dealers make better decisions. All for that.
Yeah, we can try to get information in front of people and let them make their own decision, right? So
exactly.
I'm excited that's an exciting proposition. It's like, okay, so now what do we want to do with it? It's like we're all under one roof, and so now where do we want to take what dealer 20 groups do?
Well, not just that, Michelle, but it's also just the education in general. We have a certified master dealer class that's going to come out again, not only for the independent dealer, but for buy here, pay here as well. Regular, what we're called boot camps with NIADA, that we're going to be able to provide that kind of education again, which is something, Jim, this is something that the industry's needed for a while. It's been kind of fractured, similar to the buy here, pay here space. It's been kind of fractured. And hopefully with this move and the great people that we have at NIADA, we can start providing really what the independent body is needed.
Yeah.
Awesome. I like it.
You might as well know we calendared our first white hat certification course at the end of February. So we've got some dealers coming in, bringing them to Utah for that. So we're going to start to put some silver badges.
One of the big things on 2025. Yeah. It's not, remember, it's like that checkbook thing, 2025.
Yeah.
It's one of the big things that we're moving forward with is the certification and all that means. Yeah. And, NIADA, White Hat Way, it's like, we really want to just help dealers to get the resources and help them be better and help them have a cleaner or tighter ship and all of those things. So it's like, I love where, the transition of you moving to NIADA is taking the industry. It's pretty exciting.
And I think, and what we have a chance to focus on over there is kind of what we do with White Hat Way is we really challenge dealers to think about the long game and what it means to how this decision affects down the line, right? And also just kind of what it means to be an asset to the community as a business. So some of the more intangible parts of our industry, right? So that's part of what we'll be focusing on. We're excited to get that going. To our topic of this thing, I want to ask your opinion on this social media thread, and I should find it and just read it. In fact, I'll just do that. I didn't get it where I could share it on the screen, but let me just kind of read it so that I make sure I've got the phrasing right. Because we had a dealer that we know. This thread went out on the BHPH Success Group, which is the largest Facebook group around for buy here, pay here.
You might want to give just a little bit of just a tidge bit of background is that this dealer does independent and buy here, pay here on their lot. So they're kind
both.
They're
probably they're heavier in retail. I think they target doing around 15 buy here, pay here deals a month. But the question became, and it's really out of frustration around mechanical matters, that they began to think, I think I need to create more separation between my RFC buy here, pay here, versus my sales lot.
Yeah.
And so that just kind of raised something for me that's really goes to the heart of a lot of the fundamentals of buy here, pay here, and what dealers who are new to it, as you know, they don't fully appreciate until they're deep into it what is required in buy here, pay here. Maybe required is not the wrong word, but certainly we have benefit. We see better collections results when we do certain things in the buy here, pay here aspect of our business. And so I just wanted to get your feedback on this. Yeah, let me read what it said. It said, anyone here made the switch from a traditional BHPH model to a traditional finance company? I have a large retail presence, thinking about just financing the subprime deals instead of just giving the fees and discount to the alternate, the indirect parties out there. Would love people's opinions. He said, thinking $8,000 ACV, $1,500 down, B tier and up, good customers. Not even tell them I own the finance company. So obviously, when you think about B tier and up, if we put that part aside for a moment and said, obviously, if it's a prime or near prime customer, then that is a little different. But I think for today, I wanted to have a chance to break down your advice, especially on the real fundamentals about, if I'm a new buy here, pay here dealer, how would you be advising that I handle the collection side? And why would you think that my success in collecting a poor credit consumer through a small RFC portfolio might be more successful than some independent or some third-party indirect company that's collecting from Cuba?
Or are you seeing that it makes more sense to do something like that?
Well, like I said, this is, the good or bad thing about buy here, pay here collections is that it is a relationship based, right? I mean, we took them direct. The day we sold them the car, we knew we were going to have to collect them. And so that started a different relationship at that point. He's talking about basically doing the same thing, just not letting him know that it's him, that he's the finance company, which will get that, well, I bought the car from you, you have to do this. No, that's CAC or that's Ally or whatever. You have to deal with them. If you own the finance company, you still have kind of taken them to raise to a certain point. So there's really not going to be that much of a separation there. You're still going to have to decide, what are you going to do when the vehicle needs repair? Are you going to, in current buy here, pay here environment, RFCs, we put that on a side note if it's not covered under a warranty. Ally doesn't do that. Ford Motor Credit doesn't do that for you. Excuse me. If your car breaks and it needs a $500 repair, they say, okay, your payment's still due. So Again, depending on the tier of customer, if he's talking about, a B, buy here, pay here B, a deep subprime B, or an actual B.
Right.
The first thing that I heard when he says B tier customer, an $8,000 ACV with $1,500 down is not going to get a B tier overall customer. It's not going to get a 600, 650, 675 customer. He may be talking about a B tier buy here, pay here customer.
I think let's operate on that assumption.
Yeah.
So I've got a lot of dealers currently that under their RFC, they're starting to take on outside paper from other dealers. I've had a few dealers who have an RFC that have collapsed their retail side and are just a finance company now for dealers kind of in their market area where they're picking up, kind of onesie twosies from either new car dealers or independent dealers in the market where they've now become one of the list of lenders that they're doing because they wanted to get away from the sales side of the business, the inventory acquisition, the reconditioning of the car, those kind of things, which is probably the tougher part of the job right now, to be quite honest with you. I think it's harder to buy cars and recondition them now than it is to collect the customer. And it's always been the opposite of that in the past. It's always been easier to get the inventory and fix it and get it ready to sell than it was to collect it. And so I think that's why you're seeing a lot of people look at, hey, maybe I just want to do the finance side of this business and not worry about the sales side of the business. The only negative I see to it, Jim, would be the cash that it takes to actually do that. Now, he's wanting to keep it in-house, but if I wanted to be a standalone finance company, I've got to write that dealer a check within 30 days for that deal that I've bought. And as a buy here, pay here dealer under the IRS code, not a CPA, don't play one on TV, but I've got 90 days to buy that deal over from the sales company to the related finance company. So I've got a little bit of float with my cash there that I wouldn't have if I was a standalone finance company. And I've done the pro formas for dealers for both. And it is a substantial, more of an investment to just be a finance company than it is to kind of sell the car and finance it both. But it sounds like he's wanting to do both on his retail side, just be a lender on his retail side. And again, don't see really any negatives to that at all outside of be prepared for the collection side. He was not currently in the collection business. Make sure that he gets some feedback from somebody who's been there and done it, because it's not as simple as, Ford Motor Credit and GMAC make it look. We do have to make phone calls. There are the bad side of the business where vehicles have to be converted. So, I'm always what you might call an optimistic pessimist. Hope for the best, but prepare for the worst. So, here's the bad part about this, right? You're going to be making delinquent phone calls. There are going to be customers that are upset with you. Are you going to be the nice collection company that does help them with repairs and do some of those things and make all of those decisions first? Because it will affect the capital that you need to run that finance company. But the only other thing negative probably right now is the cost of funds, right? Until it comes down a little bit more, it's kind of expensive to run a finance company right now, to be honest with you. I mean, when you're probably paying 8% for your money out there still to a certain extent, and we've always wanted in the past, and Jimmy knows because you've been around for a long time, when I got in the business, the interest rate that you charge, you wanted to be at least 3 times what you were paying for your money at that point, right? Because we were dealing with a deep subprime customer and loss ratios were a little bit higher. So to make sure that our profitability was there, we wanted that 3-to-1 spread, and you can't get that now. At 8%, there are very few states out there that you could charge a 24% interest rate on some deep subprime paper. So, a little bit more pressure, I guess, right now to run a finance company from just from the financial side of the business than there has been historically, but nothing else out there that I would see that would really make me run away from it. No, but like I said, I've got more interest in dealers wanting to just be a finance company than do the sales and finance side of the business. So his post is very relevant to what's going on right now.
And I probably didn't phrase the question well enough because I know this dealer. I have better understanding of what he's actually setting out to do. And he already is buy here, pay here, and has about 100 contracts and has experience collecting. I think most of what's happening with him is out of frustration, especially with the mechanical side. I saw in particular he had something the other day where customer gave up on the car and it turned out just to only be out of gas, right? So there's all this stuff that is kind of frustrating around that side. And I think his objective was really to continue to do self-financing and a buy here, pay here structure, but to have it look more separated from his sales company so that he could create that degree of separation. And so I just think even if you do that, what we have to be prepared for is how we manage that RFC or that company, even though we want to keep that degree of separation, because I think you use the word conversion. I'm assuming you're talking about the situation where we trade a customer into another car. Is that what you were talking about?
Or actually having to pick one up. And again, it's been a struggle for a lot of dealers that I work with. They do want that separation, but then again, you kind of need the relationship with the sales company to a certain extent, at least with our customer base. That's been my experience anyway. When I got into the business, our finance company is called Star Hickman Acceptance Corporation. Well, they were like, well, that's somebody else. We don't have anything to do with them whatsoever. Well, some customers that caused a problem, right? Well, I bought the car from Auto Master, but you're telling me I have to talk to Star Hickman Acceptance Corporation. Well, it was kind of weird because a member of Star Hickman Acceptance was in the dealership. They were the one taking the payment. So, it was kind of a, hey, wait a minute, this doesn't make any sense. And then to try to separate it, it's kind of an us against them mentality. So there can be a little bit of that goes on with it. That could be a challenge. The customer, my experience tells me the customer problems don't go away, whether they know you're one and the same or you're not. If you're going to deal with a specific type of customer, they're still going to give up on the car when it runs out of gas, whether they know you're affiliated with the sales body or not.
Yeah. It's the whole conversation, coffee talk. We always like go deep into whatever the topic is. We talked quite a bit about the benefits and drawbacks of separation. And from my perspective, as I watch, I am by no stretch an expert in buy here, pay here, but just like some of the things that I'm seeing is, like even having your shop on site where people are seeing cars coming and going and getting fixed and all of that creates an expectation. Just like when the RFC is in, we as we help dealers bring in an RFC, it's like there are certain things you have to do that government is requiring you to do, separate entrance, all of that. And if like you just said, if you're coming into the dealership and making your payment to the whatever, and it's like there may be a door that's separating the two, but it's basically everything's always open and we're back and forth and all of that. That if your intent is to have a separation, that where I was kind of going is like it makes sense that there be physical separation, like real physical. And I've seen some where they figure out how to do an ATM in the dealership, and so if you're going to pay, you're going to come over here and do that, and you can still talk to the people there, and all of that. And so it's like, from your experience, when you don't have when you don't have those layers of separation, does it cause more expectation on the side of the customer? And is that something that is a good idea for a dealer to figure out how to mitigate that?
Yeah, that's a great point, Michelle. It is. You're right, because they're going, well, you are one and the same because you're here. Now, moving it out to another building isn't going to solve the problem necessarily at that point, but it does at least, hey, we don't have to go through this here. And again, in today's age where you've got a lot of electronic payments, there's the physical separation is probably not as necessary as it would have been 10 years ago when you still had lines of customers coming in on Friday and Saturday to make payments in person. Now, and it's a challenge for us now, a majority of these customers are making them automatically online. We don't really have that much interaction with them anymore. So the separation part of it probably not as important anymore. I think I'm still kind of old school. I still think that this is a relationship-based industry to a certain extent. So us being one and the same helps. From a sales standpoint, I would love there to be a separation. Hey, that ain't got nothing to do with me. Your payments are them. If you have a repair problem, that's them. I love the being able to pass the buck. Defer to somebody else. However you want to do that. Sorry. And even from a collection side, it's one of those, well, hey, that was the sales department. That's not us. So, both sides, I think, enjoy a little bit of that separation. But if they were completely honest, I think they would both say, yeah, I kind of like the fact that, we do say that we are kind of one and the same company. But it is frustrating when customers just want to give up and you think, well, if I kind of separate this, will it reduce their expectations? I don't know that that's the case. I have some larger dealers that have finance companies that are nowhere close to a retail facility. The same ones, their shops are not part of retail facilities. It's a standalone shop somewhere else. So you don't have the, hey, I see cars getting worked on, why can't you get mine in kind of thing. Does it mitigate the problems? I don't think so. It just creates little different problems, I guess, with that, because then you're going to have a customer that has to take a car to a facility that's offsite, and maybe they don't wait there. Maybe they drop them off. They do want to speak with let's say, an account rep from a collection standpoint in person. They've got to go somewhere else to do that, depending on where they are. So I think it's just a different set of challenges with those. I haven't seen it mitigate. I haven't seen that model works any better from a metric standpoint. Which I'm a numbers guy. So if I look at somebody and you're going to do it this way, show me on paper how that way is better than some other way outside of just intuitively what that feels like. So, but again, I think it's just a preference on one of those. If you separate that finance company, when we got big enough, we had to, just because of size, we just didn't have room for the collectors in a facility, but probably would have kept them in one because I'm a cheapskate. I don't want to pay 2 rents. Moved them out, had regional collection offices. Did we get any better? No. When we centralized our shop, did we get any better? No, not really. It just caused the different challenges that we had. How do we get the car to and from? If the customer wants to speak with us in person, then you have to go to this address. So just different challenges, but we didn't see anything marketable. But again, 17, 18 years ago, and the dealers I work with now, I don't see anything that I would point to say, yeah, I think that's the way you need to go with it. I think it's just a personal preference.
Yeah. I have one more way to ask the question that's going to be I'm going to zoom out and I'm going to ask the question in a way that, thinking about that, most of our listeners on my morning show seem to be newer dealers, right? They're newer to the business, and and this becomes a spot for them to learn a few things often. And so if I ask the question differently, if you think about if the customer that we're financing is truly let's just call them a buy here, pay here customer, forget the labels of prime, non-prime, and credit scores and all the stuff. If we think they're a buy here, pay here customer, then I would ask you to kind of help our newer dealers or somebody who's just listening and contemplating buy here, pay here. Like, what's going to be different for me to set up a finance company for buy here, pay here collections versus some third party who's, in another state trying to collect on my customer from a distance? Like, what are the benefits that I can experience as a small RFC in a small community serving my customers through that arrangement versus some distant indirect lender? So let's talk about that piece of it for a minute.
I think it's the customer service aspect. I think when it's smaller and local, I have the ability to treat Michelle as Michelle and not contract number 17043, just another signature on a contract. And I think when you separate them too far, that's kind of what you get to. Then it's, hey, your payment was due here. This is how much we need. Well, my check was short. Your payment was this. It was due on this day. I think you get more of that with the separation than you do with, hey, Michelle, I understand. What is it you can do today? And I think that's where that can lead, depending on the size and scope, obviously. I mean, if you stay small, you can still have that. And again, in today's environment where everything is virtual anymore, I'm going to have to give up my old school ways, where I still think that face-to-face connection makes a difference in collections. It's not as much anymore. So having an offsite or a completely separate finance company somewhere else is probably not as much of a negative as it used to be. But I still think at some point you'll lose, because if you do that, some of your policies and procedures will change at that point on how you deal with customers and what you're willing to do to help them when you're not somewhere close where there can be some sort of direct interaction with the customer. So that would be the only thing that I would think that it could lead to at some point. I can treat Michelle as a customer, not as a signature on a contract. I think would be a challenge if you completely separated them and just kind of went with, hey, I'm just a finance company. That's all I am.
Yeah. Okay. We've got a few comments that have been sitting there waiting for me to do something with for a while. So I'm going to
talk to me to go.
Oh, yeah, no. Rudy Enriquez, he's tuning in through YouTube, says, I don't see the math problem when someone's turning in a car because it's out of gas. It's the customer's loss here. And it's like, I was thinking the same thing. It's like, okay, maybe it doesn't get good enough gas mileage. Not sure. And then Maury
I mean, there's
Zio.
no premise to that, though. I mean, Rudy's basically saying, hey, look, if they don't want the car, I don't really need them as a customer. So I'm kind of on board with that to a certain extent. Does it frustrate me? Yes. But if a customer is willing to give a car back for that reason and that reason only, then, either we did something wrong in our relationship with them, that they felt that was enough to do it. But yeah, to a certain extent, it's like, I mean, I've had a customer tell me, I'm going to give the car back if you don't fix my back window that doesn't roll down. And it's time for us to part ways at this point, because if that's the reason that you want to end your relationship with us, then we probably should end it now.
And I would throw one more thing on top of that for Rudy's benefit is like, I think if there's a way to get past this, now, if it's a high maintenance customer and we want to cut our losses and move on, probably, but if there's a way to get past it, our ability to keep that customer is going to cost us a lot less than attracting and paying to attract a whole new customer for that same car. So if I can save the customer, save the deal, and get it back on track, I'd prefer that. I think the math is going to be in my favor.
I think we all do, yeah.
Yeah. So this is one that came in quite a while ago when you were talking about at 8% and, the money, we can't go multiples of 3. And so Mario's like 15%. And the second one, and he's like, where can I get 8%? Like he's paying 15%. And where can he, and when you said that, I was like, most of the dealers that we work with pay more than 18% for their money, don't they?
About 16 to 18, yeah.
16 to 18% for their money, not 8%. So, I was thinking, Maury, I was like, where is he getting that?
Most of these are going to be local and regional bank relationships that they have, obviously, and it's going to be based on, and I hate to say this, but it's the truth. It's going to be based on the net worth of the owner at that point, right? I mean, that's kind of where everybody is. And we understand that some of the finance companies that cater to our industries, I won't mention any names, start out at 10 or 11 or 12%. And again, some of those are there to bridge you, to get you set up, get that 3 or 5 years worth of financials so that you can move to a different kind of a facility at that point. But if I had to put a number on it holistically with all the dealer clients that I work with that do have lines of credit, I would say it's got to be in the 8 to 8.5% would be a good level average. Do I have some that are paying 14, 15, 16%? I do. Do I have anybody paying 3, 4, and 5? Not anymore. No. I would say the average rate is about 8%. And again, to his point, now, 16%, where 2 to 1 is probably where we are at this point. So all that means is that we've got to operate a little bit more financially responsible as far as overall operational expenses. We have to be better at collecting, obviously, at that point. To Jim's point, we got to save every deal we can save, even some of them that we may not necessarily want to. And we may understand that we're just kicking the can down the road to a certain extent. But if I can kick it down far enough down the road before it falls, then there's obviously some financial wins that we can make there. So,
and I see frequently where dealers are asking, how do I get out of this? Because, a lot of times when they're in a 16% or, 18, whatever it is, percent interest rate, that it's like, I don't see a way out. You're kind of kept on that merry-go-round, and I see heads nodding.
It's tough. I mean, there's only 2 ways to generate cash flow in our industry right now, and it's fewer cars or cheaper. 1 and 2. So, and again, the cheaper part of it is probably the toughest part, right? I mean, $8,000 ACV car, and if I could go out and do $5,000 ACV cars, then I can afford the 15% money at that point. So when I'm paying 7 and 8 for them, it's beans and weenies some night for dinner. I get that.
Yeah. And then there were some more questions or more comments from Maury. If you need to be able to talk to an expert around this, give us a call, give Brent a call, give someone a call that can kind of help point you in the right direction for some of these pieces to be able to get better financing. And then Crystal Agayo piped in. She's a friend of White Hat Way and the whole thing. We work with her a little bit, and or actually no, we work with her a lot. Based on our experience, as long as you have a well outlined SOP and efficient employees training, having an RFC makes it easier to collect. When a customer refers to mechanical issues, as collectors, we acknowledge and let our customer know. We'll alert the dealer for warranty or repair options, and the customer performs better. Our customers want solutions in their situations, and so communication is key. So, and we are a huge advocate for SOPs, and that it's kind of like what Jim was talking about earlier. You go to all these different satellite places and they're all run differently. and it's harder to keep your finger on the pulse of your business in general when that happens. And so SOPs, love it. But if you've got an SOP and have a way to be able to, like, these are the avenues and the things, then it becomes much more, it's something that you can just lead a customer through the process,
Yeah. And your answers were helpful, Brent. I just say that I feel like when we have that kind of, I'll call it a cozy relationship with the customer, when we can, because you mentioned the relationship part of it. What Michelle and I talk about is kind of relationship equity. When we have the nature of our relationship with the customer such that we have some equity, then these little setbacks about a empty gas tank or whatever, that stuff is easy to navigate and get past whenever we have something of a relationship with them, which is harder, obviously, when you're a Westlake or whatever, these big, they're not going to have that nature of relationship. So I think it's one of the ways, when I just look at our industry in general, one of the ways that I feel like still, you said, like I'm a fundamentalist, right? Or I'm old school. Right. So, but a lot of what those old school things are just, they still apply as much today as they did before, in terms of one of the things that helps us to be successful in a buy here, pay here segment with a buy here, pay here customers. We can get in the weeds with them. This is some of what it takes, is to be able to be there, be close and work through the stuff, because a lot of times they don't know how to help themselves. And so it's hard for us to function like a Westlake when we have to kind of be in there with them.
Isn't that one of the reasons why, I'm throwing spaghetti at the wall, but just from my perspective, isn't one of the reasons why people get into the position that they are in their credit is because they've dealt with enough that it's like yes or no or gone. It's that they don't work with people, and that just diminishes their ability to be able to get off of, or to, it just takes them down further down a rabbit hole of poor credit, because when it's just so walled in, it's a yes or no or go.
Jim knows this. Most of the customers we got, the reason they had a repossession was what? Had a problem with the car, they wouldn't work with me. A problem with my payments, they wouldn't work with me. And why could they work with you? Because they have tens of millions of customers, that they don't have the time and infrastructure to stop and listen to Michelle's problem, try to work out a solution, break up the payment over the next 2, the next 3. When do you get paid again? What does that paycheck look like? And I've worked with some of these large collection houses. They're on call volumes that say, you got 2 minutes. That's all you got per phone call. When it hits, you got 2 minutes to solve the problem. And it comes back to pay. And that's, they can't pay. So the car goes back, and they end up dropping down a tier and end up being a deep subprime customer with us. And then we get the opportunity, because we are smaller, that we can, based on our number of accounts, take the 10 or 15 minutes to work with Jim or Michelle and work out payment arrangements with them.
And obviously there are lenders out there doing deep subprime from a distance, and they find ways to make it work. My suspicion is if we could get deep inside their numbers, their success rate is not what we see in buy here, pay here. And it's because of this ability to manage the account more closely week in and week out, right? We don't do monthly
thing with them. It is. It is for some of those bigger ones out there, when they're adding 100,000 new deals a month, and their charge-off rates get deflated. As long as they continue to add that, whatever it is, 10,000, 100,000 accounts a month, those percentages stay low. But if that ever slowed down whatsoever, and Jim, you've seen it with some large dealer, buy here, pay here dealers, that they grow and grow and grow, and as soon as it slows down a little bit, the caboose of the train comes up pretty quick, right? But as long as you're growing, you can, and that's all they do. They maintain, hey, this is the percentage we need, and to do that, we need X number of underwrites that we purchase, contracts we purchase a month. And as long as we maintain that or above, that my percentages stay where they need to be and they look good for shareholders, whatever that you want to take a look at.
That to me is like exhausting.
Yeah.
And whereas like we've got to stay ahead of the thing. We have to, it's that sell mentality. And we're going to be able to dig ourselves out of the hole we're in if we sell more cars. And, I know for what we teach is like, that is really not a solid answer to a problem is selling more. It's like, let's get in, like Crystal talks about, let's work on SOPs. Let's do, a lot of these different things that can help so that when that caboose, if it does end up hitting, that you're in a really good position. And it's like, I'm okay. I got this.
So what I know about Brent is I would say the first time that he gets a chance to do his, as an NIADA Director of Education, to do his, seminar on collect the payment, not the car. Did I finally get it right? Collect the payment, not the car.
Collect the cash, not the car. But good enough, man. Good enough.
I'm gonna write it down. I'm writing it down.
There you go.
Anyway, when that comes up, don't say, when you see it come across your email, don't say, I'm going to sign up for that tomorrow. You're going to sign up for it right now, and you're going to go to Brent's, collect the cash, not the car.
And you'll probably be doing that, won't you, through NIADA, that same kind of
I'm not sure what the title will be at that point, but definitely we're going to get some collection classes, collection management, sales management, shop management. We have a full suite of education programs that we are going to get rolled out. May not be the first half of 2025, probably more toward the last half, but we're going to start getting the opportunity for dealers and association members to get the training that we feel they need. So,
I before we let you go, it's like and there's more that I haven't put up there, but there's a lot of interest in understanding how you can get money at 8%. And it's coming from dealers and people that are in the money realm. It's like, I don't know how you do that.
It's banks. You just got to find out what they're.
Well, and I can promise you, 90% of the dealers I have that may be paying 8% now, at some point we're paying 10, 12, 14, or 15. Had to bite the bullet to a certain extent for that 3 or 5 year period, whatever it took to get the financials in a place where they could find. And again, it's going to be local and regional banks, guys. You're not going to get these from finance companies out there because that money is just not there. It's going to be a local or regional bank that, unfortunately, you'll have to have a pretty strong personal guarantee on some of these as well. You're not going to get 8% money on just your receivables. Those days are gone.
Right.
The days of no personal guarantee are gone. So, it's more, being able to establish a good net wealth and good financials showing that, hey, we know, and to Crystal's point, one of the things that helps, believe it or not, is formal written process and procedure on what you do. Data tracking to show a history of what you've done and being able to project what you're expected to do moving forward.
Sure.
Things like cash flow models, balance sheet needs to be in a good position. It's basically business 101, but it takes it to the next level for us to try to go secure money on what we're wanting to do with it. So it is there. This is going to sound shallow or hollow, but I mean, patience is a virtue. We've all been there. We all had to pay that kind of money. We had to pay credit card rates at some point for our money. And then we learned from relationships with local and regional banks, what is it I've got to do to be able to move this to you? What is it that you need? Leverage percentage. I mean, there's things that you have to work on to get it there. And I can promise you, the guys that are at 8% now are making sure they're doing every single thing possible to keep their business in that position. Because they know if they had to go out tomorrow for some reason, they lost that line of credit, would they be able to replace it at 8%? They know they're probably looking at 10. And for some of those guys, depending on their leverage percentage, 10% doesn't work. Believe it or not, 2 percentage points different does not work. The business cannot afford it. So patience, due diligence, and diligence for you, Maury, out there. I promise you'll get there. Jim, I can definitely help you. Definitely reach out to him, and I'm sure he can work out a plan to help you get there.
Awesome.
What I don't know, Michelle knows, so it's all good. No, we're happy to make
because I
connections.
sleep next to the person that knows all the things. I think that there's stuff while we're sleeping that it just kind of, gets injected in my brain. Or
Brent,
for the Michelle ran a business. I mean, the lingo, the time, she's got this down. Are you kidding me?
She's done it. She knows.
Thanks. You're petting my ego.
Some investors, and Michelle's going to run our buy here, pay here for us. So.
Yeah. So Brent's going to do well in politics now that he's
Brent's
going to
really going to do well in politics. But
that's a Jeff Martin thing. Brent is the level below the politics.
Yeah. But there's, and I know that just like this whole money thing is really a conversation that we've been talking about for the last year or so.
Yeah.
And this one of the things to let dealers know out there is it is possible to get a bank to give you the financing. It is possible. And the temperature may seem like banks aren't interested, but if you've got the right pieces, they are. And so there are banks, and not every bank maybe, but there are banks out there that are interested if you've got all the right pieces. And it really does come down to those things that Brent talked about with, having the metrics, having the numbers, having the, and the SOPs and like being a real solid wild card in their, in their view.
I think in the simplest form, to Crystal's point, it's like if I'm going to lend to you, Michelle, in your business, then I need to see, I can see how your business has been performing, but what can I see that tells me the likelihood that it's still going to be performing that way a year and 2 years from now? That's back to policies and procedures, SOPs, internal controls, and all those kind of things, so that you can be sure that's going to, and the sooner you can document that, otherwise I have to have that tremendous net worth that Brent's talking about. So my ability to get to the money, I think sooner in my net worth trajectory is going to have to do with these policies, procedures, and having systems in place that are going to be able to be replicated and continued. So I think that's part of what we can all be thinking about in terms of getting access.
And the net worth helps an awful lot.
It helps
too, is that you've diversified where your money is too. Yeah.
We've seen dealers get multi-million-dollar signature loans at 8% in recent months. I mean, really in 2024. And so it's there, but we got to get ourselves in position to be able to be eligible for that. So in the meantime, go play golf with your neighborhood banker.
Right? Build relationships. It's about relationships.
It is. It truly is. I mean, that's exactly what it's about. And a lot of dealers that I've worked with, well, a bank won't listen to me. You don't know that unless you go. And they just look at the model, right, Jim? You and I've talked about this before. I mean, you're going to go into a bank and you're going to say, I need to borrow $2 million. And they're going to say, what do you want it for? And you're going to say, well, I'm going to buy a 10-year-old car with 140,000 miles on it. And I'm going to do some work to it. And then I'm going to finance somebody who's proven in the past that they won't pay it back.
Yeah. Hey, Brent, here's one of our ballpoint pens.
Sign up for that one,
Here's Joe's. Here's one of our ballpoint pens that says Joe's Corner Bank. We'll see you. We'll see you down the road.
Yeah. Well, and when you put it that way too, is like buy here, pay here dealers, businesses are the customer to a bank that, like, you go into a franchise and you're that kind of customer. It's like you better there's a slimmer chance, but the more you create this that I'm a good risk. It's because buy here, pay here dealers are the subprime kind of in the way that it's looking at for banks. I mean, it's like too high of a risk because it is a wild card. We don't know if you're going to pay it back. And
a simpler way to say it is, it's really with most banks, it's not a qualifying asset. So it's like, our bank, right?
And I'll tell you this, my experience has been, I've had very few, I can't think of any off the top of my head, where a dealer had a line of credit with either a local or regional bank that bank wanted out of the business. I've seen it with our finance companies in our industry, and we've seen it from the two majors out there, to be quite honest with you, are not renewing some dealer client. And one dealer client I know had been with their finance company for 15, 18 years and got a notification that they will not be up for renewal in 2 years when their renewal comes up. They're not doing anything wrong. Got access to their metrics. They're a above average dealer. They're just deciding they don't want any part of that business. And I've not heard that from a local or regional bank, because they thrive on those types of lines of credit that are going to pay, or I hate to say it, 8%. And they pay like clockwork, and that business is there, and the bank enjoys that business. So I've not seen it yet, knock on wood. I'm sure it's probably happened out there, but I haven't recently had any experience with that where a local or regional bank has said, hey, on your next renewal, we decided we don't want any more of this business. They're like, hey, is there anything else we can do for you? At that point, would you like to increase your line at that point? And then the dealer's going, no, I'm good where I'm at. So
yeah.
Good.
Excellent conversation.
Yeah, always.
It went somewhere that we weren't really expecting, but
that's part of what happens. It's part of what happens.
You don't have to apologize.
You ask me questions and I answer them.
Yeah,
like, we can't have this guy on because what we want to talk about never gets talked about.
Well, I am excited for the future of NIADA. I'm excited to watch where you're heading for the next, few years with how you're going to be really an instrumental player in creating something that's awesome for the industry, for all independents. And I'm just super, super excited. And I'm going to, we hope that we can still call on you and have you, I know you're going to be busy, but have you come and talk Buy Here, Pay Here.
You won't be able to find him.
Yeah. Anytime. And you said instrumental. I'm the guy with the cymbals. That's me. I'm not the orchestra. I'm just the cymbal guy. Every now and then I'm going to come in and you're going to hear me go bang, and that's going to be
it's
about
there's Brent.
No solos, no instrumental, just every now and then, ding, the little cowbell. Don't fear the reaper. I'm the cowbell guy. Just tink, tink, tink. That's all.
No, I love it.
Yeah, more cowbell.
Gotta have more cowbell. People, Saturday Night Live people know this cowbell reference.
Brent, we just are so grateful that we know you and you're in our circle, that we can call on you to have these great conversations. So thank you very much.
I think you guys know that. I think you know how high a regard I hold you both in.
Thank you.
And again, thank you for everything that you're doing for the industry. So.
Thank you. Thank you. Do you
want
to hold in the back for just a minute while we close up this show, and then we like giving you a proper goodbye.
Yeah.
So, all right, we'll see you in just a minute. Okay. Great show.
Yeah.
I really am looking forward to the things that are about ready to start.
Yeah.
Moving and with just having that layer of Brent being part of education, it's going to be really great.
And I might just mention before you close up that I'm going to put Brent's email on he's got a new email. And I think we got that right. And so you can reach
be
him
one
there.
of the first.
Yeah. So start filling up his inbox. Start sending him.
Or if there's something that we can help you with too. There's how to get a hold of us all over the heck place.
Yeah. But I would say too about 20 groups. Brent's going to continue to moderate some 20 groups that are coming over that he's moderated for a long time with NCM, and so he'll continue to do that. And 20 groups are a great solution for folks who are really looking to roll up their sleeves and get deep inside their business and compare notes with others. So.
Absolutely. Hey, everybody, thanks so much for making us a part of your Friday. We will see you on Wednesday with another White Hat Way or White Hat Ways topic. Hope you guys have a great weekend, and we will see you next week.